Madam Secretary, will you please share the details for the next board meeting?
Thank you, Mr. President. The next board meeting will be held on August 28th, 2013. Advanced registration will open at 8 a.m. on August 19th, 2013 and close on August 23rd, 2013 at 5 p.m. or when the 60 slots fill, whichever is first. If anyone has any questions about this process, please contact the board office for our assistance. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. We'll now proceed with public participation. We have the privilege again of having some public officials with us today, and so we will grant them due preference in our order. And I'd like to start with State Representative Ann Williams from the 11th District. Welcome, Representative Williams.
Thank you so much, President Vitale, Dr. Bird Bennett, and members of the board. As the President stated, my name is Ann Williams. I'm the state representative for the 11th District, which includes north side communities of Lincoln Park, North Center, the Southport Corridor, Roscoe Village, among others. I represent approximately 105,000 constituents. I'm starting my second term, but my goal here today is to be a voice for the thousands of families, parents, and community members and children on the north side who are impacted by the budget cuts, as well as citywide. First, I do want to thank you for taking the time to listen to our concerns. Special thanks to your staff, Mike Rendina, Laura Farr, have been fabulous in providing information to us to share with constituents. I understand that CPS is dealing with an unprecedented crisis, and there is no easy or obvious solution. I am committed to doing what I can on the state level to help move us forward. Some of the schools in my district are among the best in the city. We're very lucky and fortunate to have 2 recent Department of Education Blue Ribbon Award winners in the area. In terms of my local schools, however, the general picture right now is quite challenging, as it is everywhere. The proposed budget cuts we're dealing with mean schools in my district will be losing anywhere from $400,000 to $2.1 million each. Those cuts are staggering and significant. They will result in the elimination of teaching positions, the loss of arts, music, science, and technology programs, larger class sizes, and many other negative impacts that our dedicated principals try to mitigate and make the best of an extremely difficult budget situation. I've been talking to hundreds of parents since the cuts were announced and working with local officials on the city, county, and state levels to try and come up with some solutions to mitigate this crisis. We've outlined a few basic ideas, which I know you've heard before. First of all, in terms of the immediate and real budget crisis that's coming very quickly as the beginning of the school year approaches, we believe the city should consider evaluating declaring a surplus of unencumbered TIF funds to be returned to CPS for redistribution of all of our schools citywide. While I understand this is not a permanent solution, I think it's a stopgap measure that needs to be looked at as we try and mitigate this extreme funding crisis. We've heard a lot about Springfield's failure to act on pensions. I'm committed and work around the clock to solving the pension crisis in terms of our state pension system. However, I've yet to see legislation to address the city pension systems. I know you're working hard on this issue, and I look forward to getting the details so I can help move this forward as well. It's something that we need to work on all together, and I'm committed to doing so along with elected officials on all levels of government. In the long term, too, we must address some structural issues with our state's revenue and finances. We need to explore joining the majority of our neighboring states in passing a graduated income tax. And I wholeheartedly agree with Dr. Bird Bennett that our school funding formula in Illinois is woefully inadequate. Finally, we must revisit our antiquated tax code to bring it in line with the realities of today's economy. I want to recognize the many parents and community leaders, many who are here today, who have mobilized on this issue. It's been amazing to see. The newly created Common Sense Coalition of LSCs for Fair Funding, who I learned today have almost 70 members, is a grassroots coalition committed to drawing attention to the issue, looking for collaborative solutions and providing a voice for many children and families and community members who are so impacted by the cuts. This coalition grows by the day and includes stakeholders from all areas of the city. I anticipate and know you'll be working closely with them over the coming days and weeks, and I hope you will hear what they have to say. I'm committed to doing all I can to focus on this critical issue. This is the most important issue to me, and that's education. I will work with everyone involved to ensure schools have the funding necessary to grow the quality of education, not just in my area, but citywide. Education simply must be the priority. In my short time in office, and I'm just starting my second term, I've been asked to spend taxpayer money on a bailout for the CME, bailout for Sears, arena for a private institution, money for Broadway in Chicago. The list goes on. But again, where's the money for education in terms of being the #1 priority? I know I'm preaching to the choir, but when you look at all the taxpayer dollars that are spent across the board, we need to evaluate the priorities, not just within CPS, which is what your job is, but all of us are responsible with evaluating the priorities across the board, wherever taxpayer money is spent. I think that's part of the problem here. You can't take the kids to Disneyland if you can't make the mortgage payment, you can't put food on the table. Again, you can't have strong communities without strong schools, and you can't have strong schools without strong communities. Thank you for your time and efforts in this regard.
Thank you, Representative Williams. We look forward to your support down there in Springfield. We're going to need yours and everybody else. I must say, that the TIF issue, which I know people continue to raise, is a challenging one to think about. Without TIF dollars, we wouldn't have a new Jones High School, which was sorely needed and demanded for by that community and its residents. We'd not have an addition to Coonley, which I think is in your district. That's $20 million right there that's going to an addition in your district. So, the balancing act between whether these TIF dollars should be used to expand our infrastructure or to support operations is not an easy one for anybody to evaluate. We don't always have, we at the board don't have that choice. But I suppose we could ask, I don't think you'd want us to, but we could go and say, well, don't build the addition to Coonley, let's invest it in teachers. But, those are the kinds of struggles that when you don't have resources that those of us sitting here face. So I hope you appreciate that, and we look forward to your support in Springfield. Thank you for coming. Alderman Maldonado is here from the 26th Ward. Alderman?
Mr. President, and distinguished members of the board, and Madam CEO Barbara Byrd Bennett, thank you for allowing me the time to come and speak before you today. I'm here to express my views on the importance of bringing one of the most unique and popular Chicago public schools options, the military academy, to the 26th Ward. After more than 2 years of listening to community leaders, meeting one-on-one with parents and students, and consulting with local school principals and clergy, I have never been more certain that there is an overwhelming need and desire by the community to bring Marine Math and Science Academy to Ames Middle School, located at 1920 North Hamlin in the 26th Ward. However, I've been told that before the board makes a final decision, proper process and consideration should be given to this matter by this board. So let me describe in detail what our community has done to communicate their desire to bring Marine Math and Science Academy to the 26th Ward in the hope that it will meet the board's approval of proper community input. First, religious leaders in the community communicated with their congregations over several weeks and secured 1,100 signatures on petitions in support of Marine Math and Science Academy. Second, a professional research firm conducted a poll to gauge the support for Marine Math and Science. The poll showed that modifying Ames Middle School to include or add Marine Math and Science had the solid support of nearly 72% of the respondents. This poll was conducted among 300 respondents comprising a representative sample of a target population of residents living around Ames School. It is important to point out that the poll had a 4% margin of error, making the results very, very reliable. Third, on Wednesday, July 17th, I sponsored a community meeting promoted through the CPS website. Nearly 180 community members attended to hear a presentation by Todd Connor, Executive Director of Service Leadership Programs for CPS. The vast majority of those who testified expressed their support of Marine Math and Science Academy. Finally, shortly after the community meeting on Friday, July 19th, 130 concerned members of the community called the board to express their support of Marine Math and Science. Maybe that was unprecedented for CPS, since one of your staff called my office urging me to stop the calls. Let me emphasize, those calls were made voluntarily by members of the community and should be respected and noted as such. During my ward night hours this past Monday, I was approached by a small but very vocal group of protesters who were truly terrified at the prospect of losing Ames Middle School. Sadly, this is the distortion of the facts about what is being proposed for Ames. What is being proposed is to add and expand choices for the parents and youth of our community. Those parents who choose Ames Middle School will have that choice. Those parents that may choose Marine Math and Science for middle and high school will also have that option. Is there anything wrong with choices? This is an alternative model that emphasizes academic excellence within an academic culture that emphasizes discipline and structure. So why locate Marine Math and Science Academy at Ames Middle School? Ames is a state-of-the-art facility with a beautiful campus. Unfortunately, it is greatly underutilized, with less than 500 students occupying an 1,100 student capacity school. This presents the perfect opportunity to modify Ames School to include Marine Math and Science and to produce excellent results in the academic achievement of our youth. President Vitale and members of the board, please tell me, how can parents in my community be denied the opportunity to have their children enrolled in a high school where 95% of its graduates are admitted to a four-year university? None of the surrounding high schools in our community, Clemente, Wells, North Grand, and Kelvin Park, come close to Marine Math and Science success of sending youth to college. Marine Math and Science has an established track record of academic achievement and college enrollment, and I believe the youth of our community deserve the opportunity to build better futures. I want to point out that much of the opposition to Marine Math and Science is based on faulty perceptions and misinformation, as you, Mr. President, and members of this board are all too familiar with. One of the myths is that Marine Math and Science is a training ground for sending our children to enlist in the military when they graduate. As you know, this is false. Marine Math and Science do not engage in military recruiting, and there are actually a higher percentage of military graduates from Clemente, Wells, North Grand, and Kelvin Park. Also, many opponents believe that Marine Math and Science is a charter school. As you know, it is not. And both the principal and teachers are CPS employees. Marine Math and Science students are required to take a JROTC class as an additional subject, which is primarily a PE class with additional curriculum modules in leadership development and other subject matters. So, this unique CPS option truly delivers a rigorous, challenging, safe, and structured academic environment for our students. I think we are at a critical crossroad with the education of our children. As alderman of this ward, And as the parent of 3 young children, I feel it is my duty to provide our children with a real opportunity to get quality education in the 26th ward. That's why I urge you, Mr. President, and members of this board to bring marine math and science to our community. Thank you for this opportunity to address you, and I truly hope you will approve my petition to modify Ames Middle School to include Marine Math and Science Academy and give our youth the choice to succeed. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Maldonado. You know, the board looks forward to supporting you and your community with your objective. I think you understand, and if you don't, schools cannot be moved or co-located without going through, this is a result of state law, SB 630, without going through a certain process. And we look forward to management supporting and bringing us through that process so that we can meet your objective.
I appreciate that comment, Mr. President, and it is my understanding in conversations that I have had at length that this would not be contradicting what we are proposing, the state law. But I think that's your job to further look into that. Thank you.
Okay, well, we look forward to working with you and
Thank you.
making this happen. Thank you. I believe Alderman O'Shea is with us. Alderman O'Shea?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Matt O'Shea, proud to serve as Alderman of the 19th Ward, home to the communities of Beverly, Morgan Park, and Mount Greenwood. My ward is home to 12 public schools. I have the highest concentration of CPS teachers in the entire city. Helping those schools reach their full potential is one of my top priorities. All of you here today know better than anyone what a challenging time this is for public education in our city. Every month, each of you is called upon to make difficult choices, each one with bad options. I appreciate your service to our city for taking the time to hear from me today. As I said, I know these are difficult times as the district and schools struggle to bring more resources into the classroom. Clearly, there is no silver bullet that will solve the billion-dollar budget deficit, and we're going to need an all-of-the-above approach that includes help from Springfield, more local resources, and more targeted investments. On behalf of the parents, teachers, principals, most importantly the students in the 19th Ward, I appreciate any steps you can take to put more dollars back into our classrooms, into our neighborhood schools. I recognize the scarcity of resources and believe that public education is everyone's responsibility. While I come here today specifically to speak in support of the OS4 program, I'd also offer my assistance addressing the many issues all of you face in the coming months and years. Pension reform is clearly needed to ensure the future of our education system. As a member of the Chicago City Council, I do support the return of unallocated TIF dollars to CPS, as well as any other creative ideas that you or I can come up with to help our local schools. For the past 2 years, as alderman, I've been working closely with CPS to make improvements at all of my schools. While each school has its own unique set of challenges, those whose performance lags behind have a greater need. In my ward, those schools are Esmond Elementary, Barnard Elementary, and Morgan Park High School. We all know the squeaky wheel gets the grease. As Barbara has said, and her team can tell you, when it comes to school issues, I can be that squeaky wheel. I have had countless conversations with CPS leadership about these 3 particular schools. I've hosted community events at each of them, trying to get neighbors and parents and families more engaged in what happens in those buildings. I've worked with those schools to apply for grants, plan school assemblies, service projects. I've toured those facilities with anyone and everyone from CPS who will come with me. It was 96 degrees in Barnard the other day when your staff was with me, and I appreciate that. One of your colleagues, Andy Zopp, has had the misfortune of taking many of my late night phone calls with whatever idea I have that day, or just looking for advice on how we attack the many problems we face. I'm in these schools talking to parents and teachers each and every day. I can see the potential for greatness in every one of them, which is why I'm so excited about the new OS4 program. By providing these schools, and more importantly, these families, with an influx of short-term resources now, I believe, and I'm confident, that we will see genuine achievements moving forward. While it is, of course, important to provide resources to our students, OS4 will also provide much assistance to teachers, to local school councils, to parents that will have a lasting impact. Through the intervention of OS4, these schools will leave probation and start on the path towards high performance. I promise you that is an investment that will pay returns for years to come. Thank you all for allowing me the opportunity to speak today, and thank you all for your commitment to our students.
Thank you, Alderman. Thank you for coming today. Okay, I think we are anticipating maybe some other public officials, if they are here. Is there any other public official here that I've overlooked? If not, I invite President Lewis to the podium.
Good afternoon. So good to see you. First of all, I would like to thank Tracy for the work you're doing in OS4. I think it's going to be very positive, and I think it's extraordinarily important that we take into consideration that when school actions happen, there are domino effects, and these are things that have not been looked at in the past that we have asked for, and I appreciate the fact that Tracy is taking that time to do that. I can't believe I'm sitting here going to agree with Henry Beenan on anything, but I agree with you about magical thinking and how the TIFs and the toxic swaps are just a small part of what the problem is. The big part of the problem is not just simply pension reform that would take money away from annuitants. I don't know, Carlos, are you really retired? I think you are, right? So you all are getting those pensions, right? But the average teacher pension, the average annuitant from CTPF gets $41,000 a year. That is not what's breaking the bank here. So it's not the money from the people who put that money in. So what we have a problem is we have a revenue problem. I am so willing to work with you all to go to Springfield because I have good news. You do know that there are parents suing you all for the school closure piece. Well, let me explain. The good news out of that was that the city was taken away as a defendant because they said that they don't have anything to do with the board, that the board makes the decisions. So now that gives us the opportunity to do the kinds of things that don't have political ramifications about it. So the board can restore the previous to 1995 pension levy that goes directly to pensions, so that money does not have to commingle with your budget. In addition, looking at a pension obligation bond, your debt service would be actually cheaper than what you'd have to pay the pension fund, because you wouldn't even have to deal with that. So we're ready to work with you on that so that we can actually go to Springfield. But we also need to go to Springfield to get rid of this regressive flat tax. We need a progressive income tax, and that's why Illinois looks so bad. And even our neighbors who have done really horrendous things like their right to work stuff, they have progressive income taxes. New York doesn't have the problems that we have. And they have a system that's 3 times our size, but they also have Wall Street. Wall Street pays its fair share, so we need to close some corporate loopholes. We need to look at a financial transaction tax. This is about revenue generation. We have a revenue problem. I am I can't say actually graduate, because technically I'm not a graduate of CPS, but let's say I am, because I left early. Every single year we've had this conversation at CPS about not having any money. This is nothing new. They had a school finance authority. They had all these other things. But the pension holiday wasn't just in 2010 to 2013. It started back in 95 and went to 2005. So the holiday has been problematic, and we know we can't continue to do that because it's kicking the can down the road. But because of that holiday, taxpayers have enjoyed sort of a relief themselves. So there are a couple of things I just wanted to bring to your attention. The pension reform that was presented could cost annuitants about 30% loss in their retirement. I think that forces people to almost choose between cat food and medicine. We don't want to do that. Salaries now are a smaller percentage of your operating costs than they ever have been. So even though there's raises and things of that nature, the actual percentage is lower than it used to be. So even though you got the pension holiday in 2010, you laid off 1,289 workers. So there's sort of a disconnect, and I think we have to figure out a way to make this work best for all the kids. So even with a pension holiday, you're laying off workers. We have to figure out a better way to look at this. And I do think if we work together in Springfield to change those laws so that we actually get more revenue into the system, we will have less of this problem. But we do have to change the way things are working. So the only last thing I want to say is that we did have a plan. For some reason or other, it didn't work out so well. I don't know, Mike, you were in that room. I wasn't, but it was a little goofy. Let's try to figure out how to structurally change how schools are funded so that every single year we do not have to go through this really, really sick, dysfunctional dance. Thank you.
So, Karen, I appreciate everything you say, and I think there isn't anybody up here who doesn't realize that our structural problem is going to require revenue to solve it. So, we agree on that. I must say, though, I can get a little bit frustrated with the analysis. I mean, I don't want to. I remind you that when we were in contract negotiations last year, we proposed that we get together in a joint committee and go down to Springfield. And you all rejected that.
That's not true, David.
No, it is true, Karen.
Oh, that's
I'm
not
sorry.
true. It's part of our contract that we work together on that. That's still in the contract.
Well, we talked about setting up a committee, and you said no. I'm glad we're together now. Let's get together and go to work and see if we can solve the problem. But we really do need to work together, And frankly, it doesn't help a lot when you're out there calling us liars and things like that.
Okay.
We're not liars.
It's rhetoric.
I've been on record all along saying there's no way we can close this hole without impacting our schools. So don't say we lied and we said we didn't do that. That doesn't help. It doesn't help our working relationship. So let's try to figure out how to get together and come up with solutions that we can bring to Springfield and solve this problem.
All right, I'm for that, and I will say, though, that for the record, Peter and Ginger were in a room when we asked, because what we're concerned about with school-based budgeting is that because of the school-based budgeting, people with advanced degrees and with experience will not be looked upon as candidates because the budget is tight. The option will go to hiring people with less experience or fresh out the street. Ginger actually said the word, we will hold schools harmless. So that's what was said in that room. And I think that's what led to whatever the disconnect is.
Yeah.
Don't
call us liars. We're not liars.
I'm not gonna make any promises. I'm not gonna make any promises. Thank you.
Doesn't enhance working relationships, Karen.
Thank you, Mr. President. We'll begin with public participation, and I will be taking speakers out of order, and I'd like to remind you that you'll have 2 minutes to address the board, and at the minute and 45 mark, I will ask you to please conclude your statement. Mr. President, our first speaker then will be speaker number 1, Vince Casillas, followed by the group noted from Whitney Young, and that would be speakers number 2, Abelardo Rivera, speaker number 11, Diana Arangulo, speaker 28, Ashley Cruz, speaker 36, Kashari Norwood, 46, Eliana Roman, 48, Karen Diaz de Leon, and 57, Nokvir Vasquez. Please, Mr. Vince Casillas.
Good morning. My name is Vince Casillas. I'm actually a parent of 2 kids in public schools, but I'm also the community outreach manager at the Illinois Network of Charter Schools. I have met with many parents from our member charter schools, from Rogers Park to Roseland, and with the purpose of engaging parents and ensuring that our collective voices are heard. We are actually presently facilitating parent trainings to create leaders and build engaged parents from across the city. What I'm hearing and finding is that parents are tired of the politicizing of kids' education. They are solely focused on what a good school can bring for their children. You see, parents instinctively know and understand that the only way their child will succeed in life is with a quality education. My parents, who only had a high school education, understood it, and were able to, with hard work and sacrifice, put all 3 of their kids through college. Today I brought with me Lucia Muniz. She's a parent of a 3rd grader at Namaste Charter School. She travels almost 35 minutes a day just to get her kid to a good school, but she knows that's the price that she needs to pay. That's why sometimes even, and that's not just Lucia's story, that's stories of many of our parents who attend our charter schools. But see, they know that charter schools are providing the quality options that they're looking for. At the Illinois Network of Charter Schools, we are proud to parent with all of our member schools and thousands of engaged parents to do what it takes to ensure that all parents, not only the ones with financial resources, take ownership of their kids' education and future.
Mr.
We encourage
Casillas.
you to ensure that
Mr.
this is true
Casillas.
for all Chicago families.
Thank you. Our next speaker, please. Speaker number 2, Abelardo Rivera.
Good morning. I am a student. During this meeting, you will hear many testimonies from many Chicago Public School students. It's vital that you give each and every student speaker your full attention. These are the students that attend the schools in which you have laid off teachers and slashed millions of dollars from. You have constantly said, it's all for the students, or we always put the students first. Well, the students have news for you. The actions you have taken these past months, closing 50 schools, slashing millions of dollars, and firing over 2,000 school workers, is not putting the students first. In fact, it's putting us last. The actions you have taken reflect a different motto, that you put the billionaire bankers first. At the last board meeting, several students stood up and spoke out about the actions this board has taken. However, they were kicked out because they violated the code of conduct. However, when Robert Jewell of Education Media, LLC, took the floor to promote his company's product, he was treated with great respect by this board and was referred to Tim Crowley. Even though this clearly violated the Code of Conduct, Section 9, Paragraph 1, vendors wishing to present products or services for purchase should not use the public participation portion of a board meeting for this purpose. Please treat students with the same respect you treat rich corporate workers. Today, you have a chance to truly put the students first. Put your cell phones away, listen to our demands, answer our questions, and put forth common sense legislation that will benefit every Chicago student's education. Thank you.
Diana Arangulo, please.
I am a student. My name is. I am a deaf student at Whitney Young High School. You have made many cuts from many programs that help disabled students in Chicago. You have managed to make life harder for people like me. Why are you making our future harder by taking resources that we need? I have friends from a school that got closed. She is hard of hearing, and she lived close to her school. Now she needs to go to a school very far from her home, and she cannot walk to school. Maybe you think deaf and special people cannot be alone or be an important part of the city. We can work very hard and help people. We want a school board that knows our schools and is a good person. We want a school board that is not all rich people from the city. You all people make very bad decisions, even with our money. Even if she's deaf. Are you listening to her now?
Thank you. Our next speaker then will be speaker number 28, please, Ashley Cruz, followed by speaker 36, Kashari Norwood. Last call for Ashley Cruz. Last call for speaker 36, Kashari Norwood. Moving on to speaker 46, please, Eliana Roman, followed by speaker 48, Karen Diaz-De Leon. Last call for Eliana Roman. Last call for Karen Diaz-De Leon. Moving on to speaker 57, please, Nokvir Vasquez. Last call for Nokvir Vasquez. Mr. President, we'll move on to the next group of speakers, noted as the Chicago Students Organized to Save Our Schools, and they are speaker number 3, please, Ross Floyd, followed by speaker number 10, Beatrice Ibijimi, speaker 16, Violeta Vanzuela, speaker 20, Osvaldo Gomez, 25, Clementine Fry.
Good morning. I am a student. You may know me as I need you to listen to me. This is the Declaration of Education for Chicago students. When in the course of a student's education, it becomes necessary for them to replace the educational system which has ruled over them and to assume a voice in the decisions that shape their education to ensure a quality education for all, we hold these truths to be self-evident. That all students are created equal, that they are endowed certain inalienable rights. Among these are access to equal education despite race and whether they live on the south side, north side, or west side, as well as a quality learning environment, including a class size with less than 30 students, an air-conditioned classroom, and up-to-date textbooks. Please stand up if you are a parent, teacher, or student affected by the recent school closings and budget cuts. In order to secure students' rights, those most affected by educational policy must be the ones making educational policy. This board must be run by the students, parents, teachers, and community members, not by corporate CEOs, bankers, and other political cronies. When a long train of abuses is created by the same Board of Education enforcing austerity and nepotism, it is the students and the people's right to throw off such government and to create new systems for their future security. Such has been the suffering of Chicago students, teachers, and parents, and it is now necessary for them to form a new Board of Education. The history of the present Board of Education is a history of repeated injuries, all in an attempt to establish absolute tyranny over these students. To prove this, let facts be submitted. They have in the past year alone started a crusade on public education through closing 49 39 public schools, firing over 2,000 public school workers, slashing over $90 million from public schools, funding corrupt private charter schools in the same, I'm getting there, in the same neighborhoods in which they have closed public schools, and completely ignoring the voice of parents, students, and teachers, regardless of petitions, protests, and strikes. Our voice has been ignored by this unjust board, and it is now our duty to reject and overthrow it.
Thank you, Mr.
The duty
Floyd.
of a government is to
Our
serve
next
the interests of
speaker,
people,
please.
not corporation.
Our next speaker, speaker number 10, please.
But today I am more than an ID number. I am the state of education. I am the future. I am a student, and I need you to listen to me. As students, the way of education is always bearing on our lives. We know how important it is. The message is clear. Education is the future. We are the children. Education is key to a greater society, it's key to a greater fate as individuals. As students, we ask, is our education so significant, so monumental, it's so grave that it bears, excuse me. As students, we ask if our education is so significant, so monumental in gravity as to decide the fate of our world as we know it. We ask, why is CPS taken away from our education? You, the unelected school board, claim we want better education for us, you want better literacy, you want higher graduation rates, you want the best for us. You even put children first on our sticker meetings, on our board meeting stickers, yet you guys are not fair to us. You closed down 50 of our CPS schools, putting our elementary school students on the street crossing gang lines. That's 5 to 14-year-olds crossing gang lines just to get an education. You're taking away our teachers. Our teachers, 1,036 of our teachers, 1,077 of our staff, and you claim you want the best for our education? You don't want to take responsibility for our education because you want to take all the credits. We are successful. We are doing the best. We are achieving despite this board, despite CPS, despite its corruption, and you will take none of the credit for that.
Ms. Abidjimi.
You disinvest and dismiss us students, and we are here to tell you no more. We are the future. Invest in us.
Thank you. Our next speaker,
Invest in our
please.
education.
Our next
Do not
speaker.
criticize our parents. You do not know us.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be speaker number 16.